Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Dawn Patrol. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. I'm joined by Mike Smith, who's down in rainy Florida. And we're hoping Fru Nkimbeng is going to be along any minute, and then Eileen Delrossi. And then in the second hour, we'll have one of the candidates for city council on.
And Attorney Sandra Meneses.
What?
And Attorney Sandra Meneses.
Oh, when's she coming?
7.
Huh.
On the calendar.
Oh.
There
Look
we
at
go.
that.
There we go.
I had totally forgotten about her.
Eileen's on the, she's not popped up yet, but she's here.
I'm here.
I'm not,
I just keep my picture off usually on Zoom because I feel like I have better connectivity if I do.
Ah.
well, we'd rather see your pretty face, so.
So, it's 45.
I'll put it on as soon as I get my dress on for work today.
It's 45 degrees when I was coming over here, going to 73. And it's sunny. 69 on Tuesday, 72 on Wednesday, back down to 67 on Thursday, Friday 79. And we're looking at rain on Thursday and Friday. So there's that to worry about. Let's see, today in 1551, the National University of San Marcos, the oldest university in the Americas, was founded in Lima, Peru. So I had been thinking that the University of Mexico City was the oldest, but that's just the oldest in North America. I wonder if Trump's going to pull their tax-exempt status. In 1846, the Donner Party of pioneers departed Independence, Missouri for California on what would become a year-long journey of hardship and cannibalism. You remember hearing about the Donner Party, Eileen? Apparently.
No, but I know not Donner Party, but when you say, I remember Jeffrey Dahmer.
That's Dahmer. This is Donner, D-O-N-N-E-R.
Well, it sounds an awful lot alike, and it both has to do with cannibalism.
Yep. Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's quite, anybody who understands history has heard about the Donner Party. And, it was pretty bad on what they went through.
Yep.
They ate each other?
The what?
So they ended up eating each other?
They did.
Yeah, basically because they had nothing else, they were, and where they were stuck in that. I mean, it was survival of the fittest.
Literally.
Yep. So in honor of Eileen, in 1826, the Italian-built airship Norge became the first vessel to fly over the North Pole. In 1932, 10 weeks after his abduction, Charles Lindbergh Jr., the infant son of Charles Lindbergh, was found dead near Hopewell, New Jersey, just a few miles from his home. That was not good. In 1933, the Agriculture Adjustment Act was signed by President Roosevelt, which resulted in a lot of federal control of agriculture, including buying and slaughtering cattle and subsidies to farmers for not growing. And on the same day, in the same year, President Roosevelt signed legislation creating the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, which eventually evolved into the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Back in 1949, in the Cold War, the Soviets lifted the blockade of Berlin. So we didn't get a war out of that, fortunately. In 1965, the Soviet spacecraft Luna 5 crashed onto the moon. Interesting, they just had a spacecraft return after several years and decade lost in space, just crashed into the Indian Ocean. And in 1975, in the Indochina Wars, the Democratic Kampuchea Naval Forces, that's Pol Pot and his crowd, seized the SS Marigois, which led to additional activities. What a mess. 2008, U.S. Immigration and Customs conducted the largest ever raid of a workplace in Postville, Iowa, arresting nearly 400 immigrants for identity theft and document fraud. Katharine Hepburn was born on this day in 1907, passed away in 2003. Okay, Eileen, you know who Katharine Hepburn is.
Yes, I do know who Katharine Hepburn is.
Oh, good. And in 1925, Yogi Berra was born.
Yogi Berra. I don't know who that is.
Baseball player, coach, manager, and wordsmith.
Yeah, he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. A lot of, you'll hear different sayings sometimes, and he's the one who came up with them. So what's his Cliff, what's one of the famous sayings he used to say? I'm trying to remember.
They had one about it's hard to predict history, especially if it's in the future.
Yeah, he'd say some interesting stuff, so.
And today's International Nurses Day.
What?
Today.
I heard that
is
part. International
International-
What's Its Day?
Not what's it, nurses.
Understood.
You know, RNs.
Okay, so Nurses Week is the week after Teachers Week. Okay.
No, Cliff just gave him the day, he didn't give him the week.
Oh.
Cheated him out of 6 days, but it's okay. He's the host. Host privilege.
There we go. Did you see where the mayor of Newark was arrested? He and 3 Congress critters had been invading a Homeland Security facility in Newark.
No.
The mayor of Newark finally got released, but local officials should not be making trouble for federal officials. I don't think. Now, not a good thing. But we're running into a lot of that, aren't we?
Yes. It's all over the news.
Democrats are angry group. That's why nobody wants to join a party anymore. It's all a party war down in Washington, D.C. Our side's got to win. You don't understand. We have to win. The hell with the taxpayers. The hell with the American people. We have to win.
They've lost sight of what they actually are elected to do their job for, and it's not just the Democrats. There's people on the Republican side.
Oh, both
that feel-
sides. Both sides, Mike. I agree. Our side's got to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That's why so many people are disgusted with politics and politicians and why their approval ratings are so low, because they've lost sight of what they're supposed to be doing. Like I said, if they could ever put in term limits, that may change the way they look at things. Or at least I'd like to put it in there that if they are serving Congress, they can't count that towards a pension. That would be my next option. So they want to be a senator for 20 years. You know what? You get nothing out of it once you're done. You don't get a pension. You don't get benefits, nothing. You did your public service. You got your salary, figure it out another way. Because that's what happens now. They start out, they work for a congressman. They're an assistant to them for 6-8 years, and then they run for Congress, and then they're there for 10 years, and they leave with this big fat pension and special medical benefits and all the other stuff they get. So that's not good.
Do you think that if we had term limits, say 10 years for House members, that it would cause them to be more active because they only had a limited time to make an impression?
Well, anybody who runs as a politician has a big ego, so they want people to pay attention to them. So by putting a term limit on, they'd be more focused on trying to get something done or let their name be remembered. I mean, at least that's the way I'm thinking. I'm hoping. But the problem is who knows, what they want to do. I think one of the big things they could do immediately is once you leave Congress, you don't have rights to go down on the floor. You lose your security clearances, all the other things that they have perks. People don't realize all the perks they still have, even when they step down as a congressman or senator, that they can still do.
Yeah.
I think the shortest term to get hold of Congress is as soon as you're sworn in, you have to quit your party. You're a Republican? Soon as you're sworn in, you have to quit your party. And the same thing for the Democrats. As soon as you're sworn in, you have to quit your party. Even in Lowell City Council chambers, they'll say, that guy's a Republican. And Lowell City Council is there's no party to win. But they will chastise a member and push them back because they're a Democrat or they're a Republican. That's got to stop. When you're elected, you're not allowed to be a member of any party. And when you run for re-election, you're not allowed to be on a party.
What about caucus?
It's an interesting theory.
Cliff, I don't know what you're talking about.
In Congress, there are a bunch of groupings of Congress critters, and they call them caucuses. Like there's the Black Caucus, which is made up of black members
Well,
of
little
Congress.
Rotary clubs they have down there, you can't be a member of those either. The little Rotary clubs, the little Lions clubs they have down there, nope. Can't be a member.
But you do figure that some of them are going to tend to affiliate, right?
Bernie Sanders does it as a senator.
It's never going to happen.
He voted
So you can just turn the
independent,
page.
but he still is always caucusing with the Democrats. So
Yeah.
Cliff wants to shoot holes in any kind of idea that comes out there. It's never going to happen, Cliff, so just move on. Term limits is never going to happen. Move on. It's a fantasy.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, term limits could happen sometime, but I don't see it in the immediate future. So last Wednesday, I heard some bureaucrat from down in Boston talking about food programs and complaining about new federal restrictions on food and housing, and about how Trump tax cuts are for the rich. Have you been hearing that kind of thing, Mike?
Well, we've been hearing that for a long time, the tax cuts for the rich. When they do tax cuts, everybody benefits from it. And, I get tired of it after a while because statistics show that the top 5 or 10% pay like 3/4 of the taxes in the country. So, I mean, people, it's just a power play because most people don't realize rich people employ people. They've built businesses, they produce products or services, and people work for them so that people can, get along in life and have a family and other things. If they didn't have some of the tax breaks that they have, along with, you and I, then they wouldn't build their business as much or employ as many people. But it's easy for politicians to say the rich don't pay enough. Well, data does not prove that out as true. I mean, the top 10% of the people in the country pay over 75% of the taxes. So how could you say, what do they want them to pay 100% and people like you and me pay nothing? I mean, that's just not right. So, I mean, they do pay a lot of taxes.
Yep, that's true. And if the Trump tax cuts are not renewed this year, it's going to cost people like us when we have to file our income tax next year. It's not a good deal.
Well, the thing is think about it. If those tax cuts aren't extended, where we're saving now, that means that the rich people are not going to be, they're going to pay more taxes, or we're going to pay more taxes also, and they're not going to employ as many people because they're in business and they're there to make some money. So they're going to look at, okay, I got to pay, $1 million more in taxes. I guess I'm going to cut my employment by 10% so I can still make my money. So you have to understand how that all works. They're already paying quite a bit of taxes.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I had a little note here and I've lost it. Apparently, we've got several million people in the United States who are run their own business and have no employees, and they produce $7 trillion. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. They produce a fair amount of money. So the independent contractor who's got no employees is a significant part of the economy.
Well, those are people like, say, like my Kathy's son, Mark. He has a business where he does tile work. Come in and put a new tile floor in your house or something like that, or on your wall. He's an independent. He's a one-person operation. So, or you have a consultant, that does something. He goes around and that's what he does. That's what they're talking about.
Yep.
And a lot of people like that, small businesses where the only person running that business is that person. They don't have any employees. A plumber could be that way. He has a truck, he goes out, and he does stuff for people, in their homes or businesses.
And all the YouTubers out there now, like they create merch and all of that, people who become, it's a new term, but influencers, I'm sure they all have their own business under their own name.
So it turns out there's 29 1.8 million of these people, and they make up $1.7 trillion, or about 6.8% of the U.S. economy. Not insignificant. Well, there's Eileen walking somewhere. Okay. So, former President Joe Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden appeared last week on The View. I did not catch it. Someone said if you had to boil it down, there are two headlines. First, Biden's both denied reports of the former president's senility or cognitive disabilities. And two, President Biden blamed voters' sexism and racism for the defeat of his designated successor, Kamala Harris.
Well, that's their go-to thing. They bring up racism or sexism. They have all these buckets they put everybody into. And when they do that, that keeps people distracted from what's really going on. It's unfortunate, but they always bring up, if they lose, well, the people are racist, or you're deplorables, or, that kind of stuff. And, they don't want to face up that their policies and what they were doing isn't what people wanted. And again, I saw some of that from the View. I didn't watch it live, but I saw some of the clips. Why did Jill Biden need to be there with him and then step in all the time when he was fumbling an answer? I mean, that alone, just watching it, some of it, shows that he's declined. And, if the party had done what they should have done and sat down and said, no, you're not running. You said you're only running one term. They could have had a primary, and they could have maybe had a better candidate, or even if it was Kamala, she would have had more time to run a better campaign.
What's it going to take to bring Lori Trahan in and ask her, you knew President Biden was not as healthy as the party wanted him to look at. Why did you look the other way? Same thing to Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey. Why did you look the other way?
Power. They want to keep the power.
Well, you have to bring them in and ask them one-on-one, why did you do this to our country?
But they'll still deny it. I mean, before John Pierre, I'm trying to remember her name, the press secretary. To this day, she's still. Pierre. Yeah, before her, the one before her.
Oh.
She's on MSNBC, I think now, or whatever. But I mean, to this day, they just interviewed her recently, and she still says, "Yeah, he was fine. He was great." John Pierre was saying he runs rings around everybody. I mean, she could have answered anything else besides that because it was so ridiculous for her to say that. But it's they knew. Everybody knew, and it's about keeping power.
And why did they look the other way? If we had had a war, that guy would have been in charge of the war. We didn't have war. Well, we had COVID going on, so we had a guy who didn't enjoy the mental capacity that he once did running the country. Terrible. And so Lori Trahan, why did you look the other way? Our beloved Lori Trahan. And the same thing for Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey. Got some comments from the audience. Good morning. Did Hunter Biden run a small business, or was he living off the back of number 46? That's from Jay. Moving right along. Who is this so-called Republican sitting on the Lowell City Council? That's impossible. You have to sell your soul to be a Democrat if you want to get elected here. The Republican Party in mass is on life support. Interesting comment. No one cares about those pathetic losers down in Washington. Both parties have morphed into a uniparty. I wish they did. Thank you for your comments. Back over to you, Cliff.
Yeah. Eileen, you think that applies to you, that you're automatically a Democrat because you're elected to local office?
Well, I'm registered as a Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I think we've talked about this before on the show, like how a lot of just neutral Democrats are more like Republicans today, right? And I don't know. I don't know how it works. I just try to stick to voting my what I truly feel passionate about. I won't change my vote no matter what. If I feel very strongly about something, I wouldn't.
Okay. Hi, Fru. How's it going?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday.
Yeah.
Good morning. Where were all those pictures that you sent from May Day?
Huh?
Where were those pictures, like the text message pictures you had sent May Day?
Oh, they are from Russia. I was just showing that young leader in Africa who stood directly behind Putin. That I think the West is trying to take him out because of what he's bringing to that area.
Oh.
I mean, that was just the reason why I showed him that. He stood directly. He's the youngest president in the world, 36 years old, ever since he took power. His little country, landlocked country, has developed more than any other country in Africa for 2 years. Because they kick the French out, everything, they focus on their own development. And it looks like the West, they want to take it. They have had 20 attempts to assassinate him in 2 years.
Wow.
So you should know that he's doing something over there. But you don't hear him in the Western media. They don't talk about him. They always talk about the junta.
So the ICE officials arrested a Tufts PhD student, Rumisa Ozturk. And there's been some question as to whether or not it was a righteous detention. Ozturk's visa was recently revoked, and she was later, the press said abducted, I would say arrested by ICE, whisked out of Massachusetts to Vermont and then down to Louisiana. But now she's out on bail due to a federal judge. And she was one of 4 students who wrote an op-ed on the campus newspaper, the Tufts Daily, last year, criticizing the university's response to student activists demanding that Tufts acknowledge the Palestinian genocide, disclose its investments, and divest from companies with ties to Israel. So, there's a foreign student here in the U.S. agitating on a foreign policy issue. How much leeway should we give to foreigners for this kind of activity? Go ahead, John.
It's a free country.
Yes.
It's a free country. You can say whatever I can say anything I want and get away with it. There are a few magical words you can't use, but other than that, you can say whatever you want. If you get a platform, somebody builds a platform or you build your own platform, and you got a say, it's a free country. You got free speech, citizen or non-citizen. And if you say, well, citizens don't have rights, then how is it Mercedes-Benz is able to have commercials on television? So only rich people can have speech. So everybody in this country, it's free speech. You couldn't pull this malarkey in Germany, France, Russia. You couldn't pull this at all. If you're not a citizen of that country, you get nothing. No microphone, no nothing. America is different.
John, that's not entirely true.
Okay, tell me, give me your thoughts.
Because I know that when Kathy, all the forms we had to fill out and what you had to agree to for her to get her green card here, that's just to have a green card. That's not somebody that's here, you know, I'm not sure exactly everything on a student visa or whatever, but I'm sure it's similar. That there's a lot of questions in there. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. You agree to this. They ask you if you're going to if you're part of certain groups. So there's some, and I don't remember every question, but there was over 100 of them to get that green card. So if you're here on any kind of visa or student visa or green card, there are some you've agreed to certain things you're not going to do.
I agree with what you're saying, but there are laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in the city of Lowell, that wouldn't hold up in federal court. So you can say this agency called immigration, or whoever gives the green cards, they have their little Gestapo out there that you better do this and you better do that, won't hold up in a federal court. Free speech is free speech, Mike. That's my takeaway. I'll give you the
Is
last
there
word.
a chance, like, since the time Kathy got her green card and now, that there could have been a change in the questions for green cards federally? Because I feel like prior, like when I talked to a colleague of mine who came here from Mexico, she talks about how difficult it was to actually become a citizen here. And it seems like the federal government is not making it that difficult, or not making it as many steps today. So I don't know if there is some type of a change.
I'm not aware of that. I mean, even though Kathy's not a citizen, you know, she got her green card in December of 2023. So we need to talk to our congressperson and find out what would be required for her to get citizenship. The last time I talked to my congressperson's office in New York when we were going through the process, they said it could be as soon as 2 years, which we'd be coming up on. But it could be longer, depending on, you know, what's going on now. So they can make you wait, you know, 5 to 7 years sometimes. So, yeah, and there's a lot. Your friend there that was talking about this, the biggest difficulty is getting the green card or visa to be here. Once you're here, then it's just a matter of time, I think, living in the country.
Mike, it's a big fucking mess, and I hope Trump clears it up. I got 2 texts I'm going to read. Lori Trahan will never admit that President Biden was not fit for the job mentally, but she's complicit in the cover-up. I hope the voters see that when she runs for office again. Moving right along, last text in this group. The Democratic Party is and was involved in a cover-up. Dr. Jilly Bean should be charged with elder abuse. That's from Jay. Back over to you, Cliff. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the half-life of a memory, political memory in the United States is probably about 90 days. But Fru, do you remember going through the process were they restricting people who were like communists or National Socialists, anything like that?
Cliff, I don't think I'm the right person to speak about that, but what I would like to say is education, within the campus of education, there is freedom of speech. And that is an incubator where ideas come in. And if we don't want students to be able to exercise their freedom of express within an institution, within a campus, then are we talking about the McCarthy era? Are we talking, if a country like that in Soviet Union or in Africa does that, do we stand a moral ground to talk about? sometimes we spin things in our own favor to justify things that are unjustifiable just for reasons. If we say freedom of speech and we talk about it, if you listen to what was written and also listen to Senator Bernie Sanders' speech on the floor of the Senate, what difference does that make with what he said, which is his own opinion and factual that we all see, and turn a blind eye, will not look at it that way? And what is the essence of a free speech? Is it just because it must be something that favors us? And if someone brings his own opinion, his or her own opinion may not be yours, but that is free speech, and that is how a country develops and go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
if you do it in that way, me sometimes speaking on this forum, I seem to see that there are people, because of their own idea or because I differ from them, they want to intentionally shut me down, because that's how they control the public. By looking towards a chain and manipulating it, when you say something that's out of order from how they frame it, they give you names. And people are afraid to speak up.
Well, I mean, this thing with with Tufts University, I understand about the student councils. They can voice their opinions. I don't have any issue. They can voice all the opinions they want. But they have to understand that the administration at the university doesn't have to implement what they want, because they're attending the university. They're not running the university, and they have choices. People can decide not to attend that college or university because they don't like the way they run things. But I was reading about their Senate implemented this and they passed these resolutions. The administration, it's just like any other workplace. You can voice your opinions or you can have free speech, but that doesn't mean the people in charge have to do that. Now, hopefully with free speech, as you're saying, Fru, they can get people to change their ideas and move forward with what they're talking about. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. But if enough people are doing that, then that pressure does tend to make change.
I agree with you, Mike, but I'm agreeing with you. But I'm saying that America is the beacon and an incubator of new ideas that spread around the world because of these international students. If America were closed only to Americans, America will not be as developed as it is. And what some Americans just think is they vilify it, and out of ignorance. And equally, if you see the greatest invention that occurred in this blessed country is because of foreigners who have come here and adopted this country like their beloved country. Because someone who becomes an American citizen by choice is a big decision than someone who is born American and you take it for granted. So that person who becomes an American citizen by choice, he has forgone everything and willing to put his life to stand on the country that he, by his own choice, has chosen to defend and serve. And sometimes people don't really understand that.
But no, I agree with you, Fru, because we've had this discussion before that the problem is a lot of people in the United States think every other place is like us. And I agree we need people to come in with different ideas, and we need people from other countries to come here. And I think that we should, I don't know how we can do it, but we need Americans, U.S. citizens, to travel outside the United States to other countries and meet those people to realize how lucky they are. And I say that almost every day, how lucky I am to have been born in the United States. Because people from other countries, I've been to other countries and seen what goes on. And we're very lucky to be here.
So, going to Columbia University for a minute, they just had a case where there were, 80 students went into the library and shut the library down. Students were trying to study for finals, and these demonstrators went in and disrupted all that activity. And the police of Columbia did something different this time. They wouldn't let the demonstrators back out, and they arrested some of them. How far should demonstrators be allowed to go? Should they be allowed to disrupt the learning experience of their fellow students?
Well, Cliff, if they break into the facility, they break into your house, some side of America wants them to be able to remain there until a hearing is held. And a judge says, no, you can't stay there. And they're pulling that same stunt with the people that the president's trying to kick out of the country. Well, we know you're here illegally, but we're going to give you a hearing. The Supreme Court's got to act quickly on this. Do these people get a hearing or don't they get a hearing? And if they do get a hearing, it's ridiculous, because if somebody breaks into your house, and I used this example last week and I love it. Somebody breaks into your house, you call the cops. Hey, I got somebody in my house, they broke in, and the cops will say, well, you're gonna have to duke it out in court because it's a civil matter, nothing we can do about it. They're not trespassing, they're gonna say that they belong there and it's their house. So they have a right to a hearing, nothing we can do about it. Good luck in court. Supreme Court has got to act on this soon.
I mean, even though people can come onto a campus like Columbia, people can come on there. You can't just go in there and disrupt things. You
So
can't.
you say, so they do.
I know that they do. That doesn't mean that it's right or legal what they're doing. If they're not students there, especially if they're not students in the university, they're trespassing. They don't have a right to do whatever they want on private property. Because that is, people forget, even though people could come on there. I mean, people could walk across the front of my lawn, and technically it's trespassing. That's true. But they can't come up and smash my window and do whatever they want. And by closing down the library, they have disrupted and affected people who are trying to be students there and study, and that they just can't do anything they want.
Mike, you make good points, but we have a much more educated general public than we've ever had that is able to dive into these laws and find loopholes they can drive through. And this is a loophole that they're utilizing for the first time. The loophole's always been there. It's just no one's ever driven an 18-wheeler through that loophole, but they are today.
Yeah, that's a point. That is a good point. Then you got to close the loopholes up. That's all there is to that.
That's up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's got to tell us, sorry, you got to get off Mike's lawn. There's no sorry involved. You have to inflict damages. When you penalize somebody, it's a lot easier to just say, look, you got to pay a $100 fine. Oh, that's not good enough. Okay, a $100,000 fine. Oh, that's too much. It's up to the Supreme Court to decide, get off Mike's lawn. If you go on Mike's lawn and you get arrested, there's an instant fine that goes along with it. If you hit them right in the wallet, they're not going to do it. And for the poor people, okay, you're going to have to sweep Mike's street for a month. Here's a broom. Back to Cliff.
Well, but I equally think that there's a difference between peaceful demonstration and violent demonstration. When you are demonstrating for a cause, if you look at the civil rights demonstration, these were peaceful people that were being demonstrated, and horses and dogs were sent at them
Wrong
That is
century.
what they talk about.
Fru, you got the wrong century, okay?
No, he's using a good example.
This
No,
is
John, this is exactly what I am saying,
I
that
think you're wrong.
when you
I think
have
you're
your own ideology, you want to shift it for me to think like you. It is different. We come from different background and we look things differently.
So,
and
Fru,
if you respect me to be
Fru,
on
you're
this forum,
saying it's
and
okay.
you should be able to listen to me as I listen to you.
It's okay for me to take my friends into your house and protest, and you can't kick me out. Is that what you're saying?
No.
You didn't pay attention.
I usually
told
don't.
you that peaceful demonstration is peaceful demonstration. When it becomes violent, it goes beyond what was meant to send that message. And I give a scenario. When you look at the civil rights movement in the 60s and coming up, they were peacefully demonstrated, but they were horses and dogs sent against them. There was no violence, and the message was clear. So is that bad for me to point that out? Or what is it that you want me not to figure out?
Cliff referenced inside Columbia University. Columbia University is a not-for-profit. I don't care what they're a separate entity. People went inside the building and protested. That's why I used the example. Is it okay for me and my friends to peacefully protest inside your house?
But
I say no.
Did you listen to what I said? Say peaceful demonstration. When once it becomes something destructive, that you are preventing someone from studying who is not there, that is violent, which is not acceptable. You need to pay attention before you respond.
Let me back the bus up, Fru. The peaceful demonstrations you were talking about in 1960, I don't think they happened inside buildings. Now, Cliff will be quick to correct me, but today, 2025, for people to peacefully protest in your house, is that okay? That's my question, Fru. Is it okay for me and my friends to peacefully protest inside your house?
As long as you allow them to enter, as long as I open the door for them to enter in my house, I have given them authority to do that. But when it becomes violence, that's when I call the police.
I understand. Thank you.
I think a better question is, what if they are demonstrating down at the Pollard Memorial Library? Or they're down at the Songas Arena and they demonstrate while there's other activities going on?
I think the Songas Arena people have a right to kick them out.
Is that not the same thing, Cliff? So long as they are peaceful, they are not harming anyone.
Yep.
They are just pointing some of the ills that to bring attention, so that the government, which if the government was ignorant or blind against them, they hold their placards. They are just saying that these are our grievances. We need to be listened to and we need to be heard. Isn't that what they call peaceful demonstration?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, as long as they, that's good, because that's partially what our country is founded on. But, for example, you said is the arena there, Cliff. If they're protesting outside the arena for whatever reason they're protesting for, and they're preventing people from attending that activity, then that's not peaceful anymore. So they can voice their opinion, but they can't impinge upon or prevent other people from doing their activities also. So as long as that happens, that they're not interfering with other people, say, attending that activity, then that's fine, because you're allowed to do that. The issues we keep running into is, with some of these protests and demonstrations is, are they preventing other people from continuing on with the activities they were planning on doing? And that's the big question, why everybody's up in arms about this.
And on that note, Mike, another question to ask. Are there instigators outside that are within, that are pushing them to react in their own defense so that they can say that they are violent? But we we would not see it that way. But they are people who are sent personally to provoke, to incite, so that they use that as an evidence to sabotage whatever peaceful means is there within.
No, I agree with you, Fru. There are people in there, they have a different agenda. And that's the issue. You know, that like you're seeing some of these protests happening on campuses, and the people involved with that are not even students at that university or college. No, I agree with you, Fru, that there are people there, they got their own agenda.
Mike, I got four comments, then we'll go back to Fru. How about when they peacefully protest on Route 93, is that okay? Because it happened. And I'll be right there, Belinda, thanks. Moving right along here, the next text. The youth of America are spoiled, entitled kids who whine and complain till they get what they want. Look how they peacefully protest. Remember how beautiful Mike's lawn was before everyone camped out on it? Another way to shut down free speech is to declare a pandemic and force masks on the public. Thank you for your comments. Back to you, Cliff. I got to go let Belinda in.
Okay. So I think that we see it's not just the case of protests about Gaza, Palestine, and the Middle East, but this is also an issue for anti-abortion protesters. The government has passed laws limiting how close protesters can be to abortion facilities. But that's free speech also, isn't it, protesting abortions?
Well, I don't have a problem with them limiting how close they can be, because it all goes back to what I was saying earlier, is they can protest, but when they were close to the abortion clinics, they were interfering with people trying to go to that clinic for whatever reason they were going there for. So they made some rules that you got to be farther back, so you're not making people afraid to go there because they felt threatened by those protesters. I'm not saying they weren't peaceful, the protesters, but in some people's mind they felt threatened when they were on top of the clinic. So there were some rules made for that. That we have rules all over the place, New York City, different places. You can only protest in certain areas. You can't shut traffic down because that's unsafe. So they have rules on where you can protest for the safety of the other people.
Fru, got any last thoughts on this?
Well, I agree with Mike. What Mike has said, I totally agree with. But what I will just mention before I sign off is where I heard something about economic issues, and I was hearing an interview, an international interview that involved the president of Ghana, and then they were asking what the actions of President Trump, will it be good for Africa? He said,
what happened?
Here's Mike went away.
Mike,
outside world had imposed this artificial movement of goods within Africa, and everything was trading from outside to Africa. But right what they are doing now, they are opening boundaries. Most African countries now, they don't need any passports of travel, and that would be free movement of goods and services and movement of economic vitality. That is very good. And I really think to agree with him that, necessity is the mother of invention. So this is actually opening opportunities for Africans to be able to develop and depend on self than depending on Europe and just being the source of raw materials.
So what you're saying, Fru, is basically they're putting kind of an African Union, just like the European Union of all the countries. They're doing the same thing in Africa.
You're very right, Mike, but that has always existed, but controlled by Europe and the West.
Okay.
But right now, when they are taking the bull by the horn now and saying that we Africans, because then, before they had to do anything, had to go from Cameroon to Niger or to any place, it has to go through France before it comes back into Africa. But people did not know that. Imagine you are next door, like you are in the state of New Hampshire. To come to Massachusetts, you have to get a passport, and the goods that will be sent from Cameroon, they cannot be processed in Cameroon. They have to go out to France and be processed there before they come back to Cameroon.
That's a screwy system.
Well, it's what Fru's saying is it's the only people that get the advantage out of it is France.
It's Europe, European country, Germany, all this and that, they dependent on their colonies.
I'm using France because you use France as an example, but
yes,
I understand.
And I mean, let's look at it very well. In the next 10 years, you will see the economy in Europe.
Okay, I wanted to introduce our guest who is a candidate before Fru has to head off to work. So this is Belinda Juran, who lives just up the street from me. If you're driving out of the Belvedere, she's the one with the display by the driveway that looks to me like about a half a dozen kids dancing.
I love that description. Thank you, Cliff.
So Belinda, do you know Fru?
I do, yes, quite well. Hi, Fru. How are you? Thank you. Good to see you,
And
Fru.
let me thank you very much for your community service. You are always very active everywhere.
Thank you.
So, so I wanted to have that chance. Belinda, you're like me, you're a blow-in, right?
Well, it's funny, I hate that term, but that's right. I'm not from.
When I use when
yeah.
the producer uses the term, I fully agree that I'm a blow-in. I'm here to blow things up.
I got it. Thank you.
The proper response is, I got here as quick as I could.
I know, I've heard that from you, John. Well, it's funny because some people use the term Lowellian to mean you've been here for multiple generations, and that's certainly not.
That'd be me.
Okay, so that's John. But some people use the term blow-in or blow-ellian as a pejorative, but I tend to use the term Lowvellian. So somebody who loves Lowell and chooses to live here, which is really all of us, but I like that play on words.
So we're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Fru. Good to see you.
Fru, have a good day today.
Thank you, Mike. Bye.
How are you, Cliff?
Good.
Yeah, good. Cool, it's cool to see this on this.
So you've been in the acquisition college.
What does that mean?
That's good for you.
Hi, Belinda. How are you?
Good, how are you, Eileen? Nice to see you.
Good. Nice to see you.
Procurement. Did you ever run into Vern Edwards and his program, FAR Boot Camp?
FAR boot camp? No.
Better watch the boot
Oh, FAR, those. Yeah. No, Vern, Eileen now, I'm just curious. So Vern, what's his last name?
Edwards.
And what is, yeah, no. So no, I have not.
So he's a private contractor and he teaches procurement to people. And he's runs procurement courses all around the country. I remember he was down in Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland, and running a course out of happened to be down, so I knew a couple of the instructors.
I see. Cool. Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Life Show. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. Eileen Delrossi, my co-host, is hiding out at home doing something with a manila envelope. And
Yes.
we have Mike Smith from down in,
Sunny Florida.
Well, not
I
today.
want to
It's
say Clearwater.
Largo, Florida.
Right.
Not Key Largo, but Largo. We're southwest of Tampa.
Okay, got it.
That someone said, were you the one that told me that the Tampa baseball team is leaving for Raleigh in a couple of
No.
years?
No, I did not say that. So
Had you heard that?
no, I haven't heard that. I haven't really followed the teams all the time down here. But I'll have to look into that and see. But I hadn't heard that. That would be the Tampa Bay Rays. That's
Yeah.
the baseball. So I hadn't heard they were leaving. I'd be surprised because Tampa is they got a lot of major. I mean, they have the football team. They got the baseball team. They have the hockey, Tampa Bay Lightning, who won the Stanley Cup. So I mean, I would be surprised that they would be leaving because down here is where they have a lot of the spring training teams for baseball.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be news. I'll have to look into that.
And of course, we have our producer, John McDonough. So, Belinda, where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Ridgewood and Glendale neighborhoods in Queens, New York. My parents were immigrants from Austria. My mom from a tiny little village. My dad from what had been Slovenia, or now is Slovenia, had been Yugoslavia at the time. My dad was a machinist, and my mom had worked in a knitting mill until I was born, so I grew up in a working-class family, went to Catholic school, and between the nuns and my parents, I learned the values of honesty, hard work, and discipline. But then I went to the largest public high school in New York at the time, Grover Cleveland, which had 5,500 students. So, I'm hearing some feedback. I'm not
okay.
sure.
No, that's Eileen commenting.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry. This is my first time here.
Yeah.
So from that school, after a very sort of sheltered upbringing, I learned the value of multiculturalism. And then I went to college in Scranton, Pennsylvania, at the University of Scranton, which is a Jesuit school. And I went there only because I got a scholarship. My parents had assumed I'd be a secretary, because that's what they understood girls did, but I knew I needed to go to college. So I went to college there and learned both about the importance of building community through public service by being at a Jesuit school, but also by being in Scranton, which is a post-industrial city, very similar to Lowell. Learned how cities start to try to remake themselves. So came to this area then to work in the high-tech industry. I worked at Honeywell in Billerica doing software engineering, met my husband there. And then realized at age 25, when the senior engineer with whom I worked most closely received a camera for having been at Honeywell 25 years. So he started the year I was born, and I realized then that even though I'm not, by nature a risk taker, I would not be in the same job, in 25 years, the way the economy and technology change. And so that opened my eyes, and I worked on my MBA part-time at BU when they had a campus here in Tewksbury, and then went to law school. So did a career change in my mid-30s, working with biotech companies, doing contract negotiations at a law firm in Boston. And then, and sort of in that time, first lived in Lowell at Camelot Court on Pawtucket Boulevard. Then my husband and I moved to Westford, but always came back to Lowell. We love Lowell. It fits who we are. It's a city with many, I say Lowell is diverse in every dimension you can think of, not just racially and ethnically, but age and architecture and neighborhood feel and language. So we came back for the spinners and festivals, et cetera, and finally moved back 18 years ago and into our house in Belvedere.
Scranton, you think of people like Joe Biden, but actually, I think there's a lot of Hispanics in Scranton. It became a magnet for them.
Yeah, especially in the last few years. But, what's interesting is when I came to this area, Scranton and Lowell were approximately the same size in terms of population, but Scranton shrunk after that. And I think, and Lowell, has increased. So I think a couple of reasons. One is that Lowell is, commutable to Boston. So it is, in effect, a suburb of Boston, where Scranton is 2 hours at least from either Philadelphia or New York. But over time, more recently, Scranton has welcomed, folks from diverse
Scranton's
backgrounds.
a wonderful city.
Yes.
One of my friends, Marilyn Gubbiotti, has a funeral home there.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
So whenever I have to go to Washington, D.C., that's my stopover point. I stop in, we'll have lunch or whatever, and stay at her house a couple of times. Nice
Yeah,
neighborhood.
it is.
And very nice place to stay.
Yeah, no,
Nice-
I love
nice
Scranton.
community.
Yeah, my brother lives about an hour outside Scranton, so we go into the city at least once a year, but, yeah.
Where'd you go to law school?
So I went to Harvard. I was lucky enough. Yes.
I see.
Yes,
I was hoping you were going to give a little boost to the outfit on 93.
Mass School
New
of
England
Law.
School of Law.
Yeah, or Mass School of Law, I think it is.
Mass School of Law.
Yeah.
I gave some thought to
Oh, cool. Yeah.
when I hit 65 going there. I ended up going in other directions, but it would have been fun, I think, to go to law school and
Yes.
learn a little bit about the law.
Well, and in fact, I had always thought I would go to law school later
Yeah.
in life just to learn what it was like, but I had the opportunity to do so earlier and really make a career of it, so.
Did you ever have Elizabeth Warren as a professor?
I did not. I ended up not having any of the, most famous professors, so.
No Alan Dershowitz?
No, I did not. No, the luck of the draw, or
I got a
unluck of the
question
draw.
from the audience. Good
Oh.
morning, Ms. Juran.
Yeah?
What does she think of the city of Lowell needs to kickstart the downtown area? It's been lagging for years.
Yes.
Oh, now we're hot on this subject.
Cool, yes, exactly. Well, it's interesting. So I've been door knocking around the neighborhood, and, the first thing people always raise is potholes, which we can talk about as a separate topic. But, it's interesting because people in Belvedere care about the city as a whole, and I, expected that and knew that beforehand, and it's been confirmed as I talk with people. And downtown vitality comes up quite a bit as I speak with folks. I think everybody is frustrated that it isn't more vibrant. The city is clearly undertaking, a number of initiatives, both with, the Link project, which I appreciate is not right downtown, but close to downtown. Hopefully some of the new development in the Hamilton Canal District will increase traffic there. The Ally Carter, who's the city's economic development head, is working with the business owners downtown to create a business improvement district, which I think is something that some of the folks I know who have been long-term urban planners had wondered about, whether we were doing 5 years ago, but COVID then hit, so clearly nothing, new was going to happen there. I think, in many ways, we need to be the leaders in supporting our downtown. I mean, my husband and I eat out a lot and, try to go downtown as often as possible. We go to the new restaurants and the old restaurants that are there. We support Cobblestones as well as, infuse the new Afro Fusion restaurant. That's in Kearney Square, and everything in between. Lala Books is clearly an important anchor, in the city. And Pizzelle, the new bakery.
Yeah, I was going to say, the new bakery there.
Exactly.
But that brings up the question,
Yeah.
parking.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if I want to stop by Lala Books and say, do you have this book? There aren't that many parking spaces available all the time.
True, but I mean,
And
yeah.
then some of those parking spaces are taken up by the National Park Service across the street.
So I think yes, so you might not be able to get a spot right out front, but frankly, you get a half-hour free parking at the garage right there in Market Street. So your first half hour is free, so it's not that far across the street. And, you could stop in at Pizzella at the same time, just 2 doors down.
Easy for you to say because you're young.
Well, I think you're pretty spry and young there, Cliff.
So when I think about downtown, I wonder about the impact of the high school, which is pretty big. What do you got? 3,000 students, Eileen?
Well,
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Okay. All right. How many students downtown? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
At Lowell High.
That is actually a great question. Off the top of my head, I think it's less than 3,000 now because of all the auxiliary schools that we have, like the LeBlanc, which is a day school for emotional kids, and the Malloy. I want to say it's under, but I'll get you the exact number.
But anyway, it seems like a lot of students flowing out in the middle of the afternoon. And then the homelessness, the homeless. Are these impediments? And I have to admit, my prejudice is we should have gone with 2 high schools because I thought the high school's too big.
Yeah, interesting.
We need to introduce
Yeah.
our other guests.
Right.
And why don't you introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name's Sandra Meneses. I'm an attorney in Lowell. I specialize in mostly real estate law and estate planning.
So where did you go to law school?
Suffolk, I went to Suffolk University.
I think my priest went to Suffolk.
Oh,
yeah.
to the undergrad? I went to the undergrad as well. I went to
Oh.
both, yep.
Oh, I don't think he went to the undergrad. I think he went to,
Oh, he went to law school, right?
yeah,
You're talking about Father Sinella?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so we're talking about developing downtown. With Amazon and all these other ways of buying online, is there ever a reason to go back downtown?
Well, certainly, I think, people, well, frankly, I encourage all of the folks in my book club to buy our books at Lala Books. And, Pizzelle, the restaurants, I think are important to support. Yes, people can buy stuff online, but frankly, I think, if you see the number of trucks in our neighborhood that are delivering things, one package at a time, when there, 5 trucks circling around,
Yeah.
you realize there's a big impact on, the ecology and everything else with all of that. So I think, there are stores downtown. There are more coming. With the Mill Number 5 stores moving into the Hildreth building. One Urban Tribe, which was another Mill 5 store, is moving in down the block from Lala. There's a new Cafe Eclipse, opening up where Nibbana was on Father O'Connell Parkway. So, I mean, there are lots of things downtown. I go to lunch at Purple Carrot quite frequently. And, people want to see other people. That kind of need for socialization, and socializing even in casual ways is important. So I think there are things we can do as individuals to help support businesses there. But yes, it's not going to be that, we're not going to have a big department store downtown, but I think we can, help support businesses and just keep it moving forward.
But you talked about socialization. And there's a theory out there that high school students are growing antisocial, that maybe they're more in love with their iPhone than they are with interacting with other people. Is that socialization going away? Are the younger generations, they're not marrying as much, they're not having as many kids, and now we have indications that socialization is breaking down in high school and I would presume college students.
Well, I mean, I certainly think, and this has been the debate about having, cell phones in schools, is that, the impact of cell phones and social media in our society, and Amazon and all of those things can cause people to disconnect from each other. But I think people are realizing that, the level of loneliness in the United States and across the world, really, but the level of, lack of social interaction, lack of connection in ways that you're suggesting is a concern. And I think parts of, perhaps, and because I'm no expert in this, but I think part of the reason that, high school students and young adults struggle is because they haven't had the chance to build those connections. And COVID didn't help because, yeah.
I think that's when a lot more kids became isolated, was during COVID and stuff, because they weren't in school. They were home on their iPads, on their Xboxes, and.
Yeah. So I think, we clearly have an issue, but that doesn't mean we can't move forward to solve it. So, by encouraging people to connect.
Correct, yeah, I agree.
I just have one question. It just seems to me that in the younger generation, there's a lot higher level of anxiety in their generation. A lot of, anxiety, and with social media being so prevalent, it's a lot easier to do things to people, especially in the high school level, that just drive. I mean, it's tough enough to be a teenager as it is, with all the changes going on. And now the levels of anxiety for teenagers seems is so much higher. That's going through that.
Yeah.
Look, while you guys are on this topic, I think the United States is making a big mistake telling kids you can't use your cell phones in school. I think cell phones are never going to go away. I think there was a point in time in education when teachers didn't want you to write anything down. They wanted you to commit everything to memory. And I believe there was a push to let students write this down, to help them memorize things. Contrast that to trying to push paper and a teacher saying, no, you got to remember it. I don't want you using paper. I can understand that logic. I can understand the logic by saying you can't use a cell phone, but cell phones are going to be here forever. So I would rather have our children taught how to utilize your cell phone for my benefit, for the individual benefit, because they're not going away. I think education is making a big mistake trying to get rid of them. Back over to you, Cliff.
I love this because John is always pimping me if I mention anything from the 1900s about what's way back in the last century. But
The last century.
But the big push against writing and books is what, 2,500, 3,000 years ago in Greece, when they said, oh, if we introduce books and writing, people will lose the ability to memorize. So
I don't think they do, though, because I think they still need the book, to read it, to learn it. And then I think writing helps kids memorize things
For sure.
sometimes,
Yeah.
And after they see it in writing, they tend to remember it. I mean, that's how I always was anyway.
I take tons of notes, and
Yeah,
by
I
hand mostly.
I still do,
yes.
yeah. I take notes on everything, and my kids take a lot of notes too, I find, be it on the
interesting.
iPad or.
go ahead, Mike.
Mike,
That's interesting because they stopped teaching cursive in schools. And I was at a store the other day, I had a sign for something. I think it was, I was golfing and I had a sign on the credit card. And I said, they don't teach cursive in the schools anymore. How's anybody going to sign? How's anybody, for different things, legal documents, a lot of things. I know you can do electronic signing now, but, and you're talking about taking notes. But students now in college, they bring their laptops or tablets with them and they type everything in. nobody writes notes just about anymore.
Right.
So what's going to happen with that?
Well, there's a theory that students that learn cursive do a better job learning to read. So there's a throwback issue. So,
I'll take a note about that, actually, because I always think literacy is key to early
is.
childhood, so I'm going to follow that up, yeah.
so I just paid my, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, when you think about it in school, like when I was growing up, and I went to Catholic schools also, so.
Cool.
Yeah, so you had to, when you started early on, they had the papers where you trace the letters, and
Yes.
everything. So you learned how to write them and do it, and how to do cursive, but you learned how to recognize stuff by sounding out everything, and it was like a dual skill. You learned how to write, and you learned how to sound, at the same time. And I think we're losing some of that now. And the students, you did learn to think. You were memorizing stuff as you were doing it. So I don't know why they're getting rid of cursive. There's a reason it was valuable over all these years. But now with the new electronics and tablets and all that, they're saying, well, we're not going to need it anymore. But I'm not so sure about that.
I mean, there is certainly in the world of teaching people how to read, or especially young people, young kids, there is a renewed focus on phonics. And I think recognizing that understanding how the letters connect to the sounds is important. I mean, the thing that always blew my mind is when I learned that our brains are not pre-wired to read, that is a skill we actually have to build the connections for in our brains. Speaking and all is pre-wired, but reading is not. You would think by now, it would all be built in. So, to me, early childhood education and literacy is so key to everybody, everybody's success, really society's success. So I think the fact that, we're going, or the, research is going back to focusing on phonics is a good thing, and maybe that will bring back cursive. We'll see. I don't know.
I think Belinda brought up a good point earlier about loneliness. The two texts from the audience: kids learn more from their parents than any school can teach them. They're only indoctrinated for the 185 days of the year, and I'm going to add to that, I'd say almost half of the population live in a home where they only have one natural parent. And it's a different world we live in today. We don't stay married like we used to. Second, the parenting has changed and has a big effect on the youth today. My parents were not my buddies. Well, nowadays, just growing off Belinda's comment, there's a lot of loneliness out there. A lot of loneliness. The kids, they don't have a birthday party, four kids. When I had a birthday party, 32 kids came. They all came from my class. And now, we can't share the children's names. That's against the law. So the camaraderie is gone. It's sad.
Speaking of camaraderie, I had camaraderie with the city. I was a day late because of a pothole. But I paid my tax bill.
That's
and
good.
It was big. But then I read in the Lowell Sun that they're expecting it to go up 2.5%. That's a lot of hamburgers.
That's the city council. Well done, Tom.
So, are we going to have to pay more tax in order to get the things done that need to be done here in Lowell?
Probably. I mean, I think, first of all, I think Lowell deserves the best. So we shouldn't, sort of shortchange ourselves. And taxes really are an investment in what we think is important. Now, I appreciate that, that doesn't mean that they're affordable for everybody. But we're not the only ones we're not the only place in the country that is dealing with higher prices and, many needs. So obviously nobody, including me, want taxes to go up, but, we should recognize that we are, trying to address many problems. You mentioned potholes. That's the first issue that comes up when I'm door knocking, is potholes. But it's potholes, not just in our neighborhood. It's potholes around the city, and it's potholes in neighboring towns, it's potholes in Watertown. Everybody is struggling with the same kinds of issues of potholes, of vitality. I think we may need to do a better job at explaining to people how taxes are used. I think that level of communication could be improved, because I think people, if they see and understand that, we're trying to keep good people in the city, so salaries have gone up over the last several years, that we're, improving X, Y, and Z, and the money is going to those things, I think people can understand taxes as an investment. But if we just see them as an expense without something coming back for them, that's where I think the frustration lies.
Yeah, and potholes are an expense.
Yep.
The one on Porter cost me about $370, plus, because I spent the day I was going to pay my my tax to the city, I was involved with getting my tire fixed. I was a day late, and that cost me 85 cents, too.
Oh, 85 cents? Really? Okay.
So, yeah, I am surprised that Jay has not sent a text in to John about potholes, and he's especially hot about Fairmount. That,
Well, like I said, people, when I've been door knocking, the first thing, when I ask people what they care about, the first thing that comes up is potholes. But it is interesting. It's not just in our neighborhood or even across the city. People have talked about potholes in neighboring towns. The difference is that nobody from Tewksbury or Chelmsford or Billerica comes to their door to ask them about the potholes in those towns. I don't know if this has been a particularly bad spring because of how the weather, got warm and then cold and freezing and rain and all that. I don't know if it's a particularly bad spring, but potholes are, I think, a low-hanging fruit of complaints. Everybody has one they hate.
Yeah.
And but I think they're everywhere. We were in Watertown, and I have been to visit some friends a couple weeks ago, and there was one street that was like the worst I've ever seen. I don't even know why it was so bad. So we're all struggling with potholes, but we all want great things, but we also don't want all our money just spent on repaving all of the streets every year.
Well, let's speak to neighborhood safety. Sandra has a law office.
Yep.
How safe do you feel at your law office?
And where is your office?
It's on Central Street, so it's it's further up. Do you know where Four Seasons is?
Yes, of course.
So it's before Four Seasons.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
I love Four Seasons. Another great spot.
Well, the neighborhood's not what it used to be. I mean, there's a lot of people walking around. There's still the homeless walking around. So sometimes you do feel the need to lock your door. It's not what it was 20 years ago, where you could sit outside or go for a walk and you felt as safe. I mean, I think the safety and the homeless are definitely still an issue in the city of Lowell.
So, the homeless. I used to be on the continuum of care, which was Lowell's own little homeless unit for working the problem. Not very effectively, but we were trying.
Yeah.
And then the city manager, Eileen Delrossi, had the idea to abolish our continuum of care and make us part of the balance estate, and she put together a new committee to work the issue. But the fact is, we're not working the issue, and we still have the same problems, although we're closing down the Inner Conference Center at the end of June, and we're cleaning out all the homeless camps, which makes me wonder, where are those people going?
Let's just get them out of Lowell, Cliff.
What?
Let's just get them out of Lowell.
I don't think they'll go. I think they'll just once they close the camps, I think they're just going to migrate to other parts of Lowell, because that's what happened the last time. I mean, like where my law office is, they were sleeping in the doorways, and that was an area that you never saw too much homeless. And after they started clearing out the camps, it's like they migrated just to other parts of Lowell and stuff.
Yeah, Well, and I think they may be, folks may be heading to other parts of the city, but I think, the ICC and the homeless encampments are two different aspects of homelessness. I mean, Massachusetts has a right to shelter for families, so that's the folks who are in the ICC, it is families. The folks who typically we see on the streets are typically individuals who are not entitled to a right to shelter, so are not part of the ICC. I think when people think about homelessness, we kind of conflate, or actually I don't think we conflate. I think everybody looks at the problem through their own lens. Some people see the family who just got evicted for whatever reason, could otherwise be on the street. And often people feel very sympathetic towards them. Other people see the homeless individual who might have a substance use or mental health issue and maybe feel less sympathetic towards them. But when people talk about homelessness, I think we're each looking at it through our own lens, or a particular lens, without realizing that the problem is big. And I have been, researching this. I've been talking to folks both at the national level as well as locally and in Boston. I do think that there is more to be done to address the problem, but not just, again, in Lowell. We're not unique. We can learn from every other place in the country, but lots of places are struggling. I've spoken to the head of homeless services in LA. I've talked to somebody in Portland, Oregon. I think we haven't figured out how we as a society, whether we're going to invest in the folks who need the most care, which are the folks, sleeping in the doorways, I think.
Because most of them have substance abuse or mental problems.
Yes,
so.
and those are not cheap and easy to
Right.
fix. So I don't think we've, as a society, decided if we're going to spend money, the money that's needed there, or live with the consequences. And I'm not saying there's a great answer.
Hasn't the law impeded, who's that organization that protected the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois? I remember I joined them when I joined the NRA.
When you're done, Cliff, I got like a half dozen texts.
All right, but we've put emphasis on the rights of people who are homeless, the mental, people with mental problems, people who have addictions that they can't control, and we're not able to provide them the care that they need. It seems to me, just a personal opinion. Am I wrong?
While you're
about that?
processing Cliff's questions, I'm going to go over these 6 texts.
Okay, yes, I have.
More keep coming in, okay? This doesn't even want to fit on the screen. Okay, let's shrink it down a little bit. Sorry about that. Hip, hip, hooray. Taxes are going up. Is that what you said, Mrs. Juran? Next text says, until the shelter is closed or moved, the city will still have problems.
Even after it's moved.
What's the percentage of Lowell residents actually pay taxes versus those on the system? Has anyone looked into how Worcester revived their city? Without potholes, how can you have a pothole crew? Cliff, you should hire a lawyer to recoup the 87 cents that was overcharged. Back to you guys.
Well, so Cliff, I will follow up on your point, because one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot is not just the rights that we all have, but the responsibilities that we each have to each other in a society. And as I said, I've been reading about the issue of homelessness and talking with folks for years, because I don't have the solution. I don't think anybody does. And I think perhaps, and I understand this quite well from the work I was on the board of UTEC for 11 years, and I understand the need to find people sort of where they are, that is, to help them when they're ready. And that if somebody's not ready to be helped, that it's probably going to be a wasted effort, to try to force them. On the other hand, there are people like Dr. Keith Humphreys from San Francisco who have worked in the medical space, on these issues for years, who I think also are recognizing that, the problem is so big, we may need to figure out how to rebalance rights and responsibilities. But I think we need to have those discussions. Right now, we tend to just sort of like yell at each other about them, like people don't like the homeless issue, but we don't sit down and talk about them. And I have been attending the monthly Hunger and Homeless Commission meetings, which are on Zoom, which anybody can do. They're the first Wednesday of every month at noon. Those, I think, have been helpful to share information, but what has really, I'm trying to understand the problem sort of from the ground level. So I'm going to the weekly meetings of the homeless service providers in Lowell, and I helped at the community table food service this past Saturday, which I want to start doing to just get a better understanding
Well, Belinda,
of
I'm going
things
to
on
ask
the
you and
ground.
Cliff, both of you.
Yeah.
I served on a homeless board, okay?
Okay.
I
Which
just
one?
gave
Which one, John? Just,
The shelter board.
okay, yep.
It's a thing where we,
Yeah, I don't know which.
the government
Oh,
subsidizes this issue. 99% of the people who are homeless, they have an EBT card, electronic benefit card from the government, that gets replenished every single month. Some of them have 2 or 3 of them that get replenished every month. This is the government that we have. The government is subsidizing this. They have free health insurance. They can go to the dentist for free. That guy who's holding that little placard thing at the end of the connector, he's got free dental care. Do you? The government has got to take a good look at themselves and stop subsidizing these individuals who refuse to get off the corner at the streetlight and who refused not to sleep on public property. The government's subsidizing this. I got a bunch of texts I'm going to go over, then I'm going back to you guys. There's a lot of money to be made off the homeless. How do the CEOs of those nonprofits make off feeding the homeless? It'll never be solved, homelessness, until the individual wants help. I say, take away their EBT card. Back to you guys, and we're going to talk law, aren't we, Cliff?
Then we're going to talk about homelessness one more time. The average rental price in Lowell
Yeah.
is $2,000 a month. Now, I have a grandson who works for UPS 30 hours a week, so it's a fair amount of work. He cannot afford to pay rent. He lives with me, so it's easy for him. He came up from Virginia. But $2,000 a month is immediate rent. That means you have to be earning what? So that's $24,000 a year times 3.
72
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
How many people are out there earning $72,000 a year in Lowell? That, of course, my belief is that the root of the problem is that the people on Beacon Hill do not realize that there's a clue bag out there.
That there's a what?
A clue bag that could contain some clues that they could take advantage
Sorry, I
of.
didn't understand.
As the Brits would say, they're Cluedo. They're without a clue.
I think Mike has a point.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's a couple things I've been listening with homeless is part of the issue with homeless is that you want to give them help, but if they say I don't want it, then you can't make them get help. I've dealt with some of that, not me, but with people I know, trying to help them, and if they basically say I don't want your help, I'm not taking it, there's nothing you can do. So, I mean, we need to look at that. If people are having issues mentally and other issues, you may have to do something to give them help. This is not unique to Massachusetts or Lowell. I lived in New York. Problems are there. I see homeless here in Florida, so it's not unique to any particular place. But these are people that it drives down to mental issues, mental health issues a lot of times. the other thing with your grandson being able to afford rent, one of the reasons the rents have gone up so much is lack of housing, and also mortgage rates, because people in my age group who, they're holding on to their homes. I mean, I sold mine and moved down to Florida, but a lot of people are holding on to their homes because of mortgage rates. They're not selling them, so there's less available housing for people to get into. And when that happens, it's supply and demand. So if there's less available, the prices go up, whether it's for rent or for other things. So it's not a simple thing to fix, but there are some root causes to some of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So look, I got two little texts I want to get off of my mind here. And Home Run Comrade, the homeless industry complex is big business, correct. I don't find it comforting that the city council candidate is giddy about raising taxes.
I forgot I wanted to say something about the taxes. So let's be honest. Things cost more now, okay? So I think the real issue with taxes is nobody wants to pay higher taxes, but they want to know their money's being used efficiently for what they're paying. And that's always the issue. Like you talk about potholes. It's low-hanging fruit, I agree with that. If people think their money is being used efficiently, then you're not going to hear the complaining so much. So if somehow you can convince them their money is being used efficiently, you'll probably see less complaints. I don't know if they can use different materials on the roads to make less chance of a pothole occurring. I don't know if that's being looked into, but if people feel their money's being used efficiently, you won't see the complaints.
Yeah, and Mike, that's exactly what I said, so I appreciate you saying it in a way that maybe others it resonates better, because I do think that a lot comes down to how we communicate what that investment in taxes is going towards. And I think there is a lot more that could be done in terms of communication with our from our city government to people. If you read all of the materials that are published with the city council agenda each week, all of the attachments, you can know what's going on. But if you just listen to the city council meetings, you don't actually know what's in all those documents because they don't summarize it.
Well, let me ask you, see, Lowell is very top-heavy. There are too many people working on the second, third, and even the attic of City Hall.
I don't think the attic. I've been up there.
Okay.
But anyway.
Would you have the guts to ask the city manager for a list of all the city employees who make over $90,000 a year?
You can find that in the city budget. I look at the budget. It's easy to see.
Would you ask for that? A list of every employee for the city of Lowell that makes over $90,000 a year.
So, first of all, I wouldn't ask for it because I would look at...
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, but let me finish it. Because I can see that information today. That's in the budget, the 800-page budget for fiscal year 25. You can see every employee's salary. So I can see that. I don't need to ask for it. Why 90,000 is the number?
We have too many? Make it over 90 grand?
I don't know why 90 is the number you're picking, so I'd like to understand better where you're coming from.
To think it's a problem, Belinda, how much money should everybody be making that works at City Hall?
So I don't think that's a legitimate question, because...
Okay, then move on.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Okay, that's fair.
Explain why it's not a legitimate question, because
Because...
they have to make some minimum, the $2,000 a month rent?
Yep.
Meaning you gotta make, what, 70,
Two, we
They
said.
don't have to
was-
live in Lowell, Cliff. They don't have to live in Lowell.
But they won't get much cheaper rent in any of the neighboring towns, that's for sure, having lived in Westford for 20 years.
I hear you.
So I think the question really is, what is the value we're getting for our investment? And, and we want good people to work in the city. So some arbitrary number.
And we need to invest in those people.
Yes, exactly. I agree. And hold them accountable. Everybody has to be held accountable.
One thing I did want to just mention to Cliff now, he's talking about his grandson. When I was younger, you found a roommate to share expenses.
Exactly.
So that's how you afforded things. So I don't know if he's thought about doing that.
He did find a roommate, his grandfather.
Well, no, I'm talking about, different. But that's what, I don't know if you remember that, but, when I was younger and single, you found a roommate. And that helped you in a number of ways. Because you learned how to deal with people that didn't quite do everything the same way as you. You learned to be maybe a little more tolerant of things.
Michael,
And
God bless you.
organized.
Things have changed, okay? Sitting down on my little porch at Happy Hampton Beach, I'm sitting there and one of my neighbors from Lowell is walking by with her daughter. And I say, yeah, how you doing? So we're chit-chatting. I said, so what brings you guys down here? She said, oh, we're renting a room for her on prom night. Things have changed. Now, people out there, instead of when I was young, if you wanted independence, you had to go make some money. You could never bring your girlfriend home. But that's gone out the window. Well, these kids bring their girlfriend home now. We're going on a trip, we're going to Disney, and her boyfriend's coming. The world's changed completely.
Why do you need it?
I'm sorry?
Why do you need a room on prom night? As I recall,
You're a different prom night than me, Cliff.
when I graduated from high school, they just had an all-night dance. I mean, it went on
It
all
really?
night. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, I did high school in Long Beach, California.
Oh, okay.
The other
Interesting.
Cambodian city
Yes,
in the U.S.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
So we've talked about a number of issues, most of which probably can't be fixed. One that doesn't directly fall on the city council, but indirectly does, and that is we're not turning out the number of people we need for the big industrial boom that President Trump is promising us. The kids aren't even graduating with the ability to read and write and deal with specifications and directions in books. Are we putting enough investment in our schools? Do you think? I mean, aside from the high school, that's going to cost us what, $380 million?
Yeah, 1,000. And so I told you the story earlier about when I was 25, realizing that I would need to keep learning and growing throughout my career. And that is a message I convey to everybody I can, because as technology and the economy change and longevity increases, we're all going to have to reinvent ourselves many times in our lives. And that means that we have to give, kids first, the right education. So an important, a foundation as they are toddlers, so they can start learning. And I'm on the Lowell Early Childhood Council, which works with both Lowell Public Schools and childcare providers to help, both share information, but also share best practices. We have to keep our elementary and high school students engaged so that they will keep learning and stay curious. And I do think we need to convey skills like critical thinking and analytical skills that will put people in, as well as obviously literacy and math, the foundational pieces to all that, so that they can keep learning and growing. So I think we need to make sure, yes, that people who are coming out of high school are either ready for college or career, but also recognize that they're not going to be doing the same jobs for 40 years, and that they have to invest in themselves, as we have, all of us.
Right. I don't think, our generation stays in jobs as long as, our parents did and stuff. I was just having this conversation the other day, and people tend to move. They tend to want better things, and they tend to move jobs more often than they did, I think, years ago. And I think it's, kids need to know that once high school's over, once college is over, you need to keep reading. You need to keep reading, keeping up with current events and what's happening in the world in order to expand your knowledge. You just can't say, I'm finishing school, no more reading, no more math. You have to continue doing it.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that means even, going back and getting some, whether it's another degree, but it might be just getting a certificate or learning an additional skill or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's critical.
The university has stepped on that. It used to be anything in the continuing ed catalog, if you were 60, a veteran, or a Native American, you could get for $30 a semester. And then when they went online, they cried color of money and started charging online students, all online students, the full amount, thereby subverting the intention of the legislature, in my opinion.
Questions from the audience.
I need a good lawyer.
Why are they ripping up Hovey Hill just after paving it within the last 5 years? Can they expect potholes on Hovey in the next couple of years? Moving right along, we know how taxes work. Our taxes are not helping the hard-working citizens anymore. Our tax money has been given to illegal immigrants that have not been vetted. The hard-working taxpayers in this state are tapped out. What would Ms. Juran like to see happen with the Smith Baker Center? Home run, Mike, on the tax spending. You're 3 for 3 today, 6 RBIs. Great show today. Big red dog, that's Cliff.
Okay.
Get yourself a donut, you've earned it. Back over to you,
Why are
Cliff.
you big red dog?
Clifford,
Oh, duh, I'm sorry, of course, sorry.
the
you.
childhood book.
Yes, no, I know. Now, as soon as you said it that way, I realized. Yes.
Smith Baker Center,
Yeah.
which has got that wonderful dome, great acoustics, but it's falling apart. Should we tear it down and make a parking lot? Or should we invest millions of dollars and fix it up? For what purpose?
So I really wish we could save all of the historic buildings in Lowell. And frankly, at the same time, I really wish we could have all the best new buildings in Lowell, including in the Hamilton Canal District. But I think, I was in that building in maybe 2017 or 2018 when the Coalition for a Better Acre was going to buy it. And Yunju Choi did a tour for folks who were interested in helping to fundraise and decide what the next steps might be. And it was, and I'm no architectural historian or anything, but it was clear then that it was going to be, at least clear to me, that it would be a challenge to renovate. It's a beautiful space, but it's frankly, I think an awkward space. And I know many people love it because of its history. I love history. That's how I know the attic in City Hall, because I helped catalog some of the historic documents that are up there. This was pre-COVID. I think it's an amazing space. I know people have a real resonance for it, partly because some people, remember it from their family histories. But I don't know that there is sort of one last Hail Mary attempt now to see if somebody can figure out how to renovate it. But I think, I doubt that it's, that's going to be practical. Again, I could be wrong, so I'm not, saying no, but I think at some point, it's likely that will be torn down, and whether that's a parking lot, which would be a kind of awkward spot for one, or housing, I think there's other, there likely will be a different use for that space in the future, but it is sad, and it's always sad, but at some point.
From a historic point of view, though, we have one other building in Lowell that has the same kind of dome that popped up about 120 years ago as a new architectural event. So it's not totally unique.
Is that the Greek Orthodox Church?
The Greek Orthodox Church, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, too, I had thought that the work that was being done for the Smith Baker Center and the ideas about the Southeast Asian History Museum and others could have been combined with the work going on at Jean Baptiste Church to sort of have one building that we were saving rather than trying to figure out two. Obviously, the Jean Baptiste Church now has its own path with a new owner and all. But I do think we can look ahead to what building 10 years from now, what building do we wish we had started looking at now to try to save? Because I think trying to look at a building at the once it's in trouble is harder than looking ahead to saying, okay, let's invest now in saving building X. I don't know what that building is, but there probably is a building in Lowell that
So-
we could look at.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
we do
please,
have a lot
Sandra.
of older buildings in Lowell, yeah. And it's a lot of money to restore them, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cheaper to start early.
Yes, exactly,
Or
yeah.
never let it get in that condition,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So we had a drug bust yesterday in the Belvedere?
I just saw the headline. I
Yeah.
didn't have a chance to read the details
Yeah,
in the
I
Sun.
haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
read it, no.
They were actually going after them for a computer fraud,
Oh,
and they just
interesting.
accidentally discovered all the drugs.
But what street was it on?
Butman.
Butman?
Yeah.
Yeah, right behind that little shopping plaza there. If you, like I do sometimes, cheat coming up 38 and I take a right and an immediate left, and then you take a right and a left and
Okay.
go up backwards, it's at the top
Cliff,
of
I'm
that
a
first.
I'm a lifelong Lowellian. I don't know what you're talking about. Tomorrow's show, Bobby Hoey, Charmaine, Bobby's sister's coming. That's a maybe. Ned Tarmy and hopefully we'd see Ned. I don't think so. And Tom Bumble. That's tomorrow's City Life. Time is short, Cliff.
That's because, John, you think that the center of the universe is here at 26 High Street. And Belvedere, Highland, yeah. And Belvedere
Well,
is so
the
far
center of the
away.
city, the center of the city, believe it or not, is the Dunkin' Donuts on Dutton Street. That's the center of the city. Like it or not, that's the center of Lowell.
Okay.
Are you saying geographically? I'm just curious, because,
Geographically.
Oh, is it?
Where do you think the center of Lowell is?
I don't know, I hadn't thought about it, so I want to understand and learn from you. I don't.
It's where
just-
Dunkin' Donuts is. That's the center of Lowell.
Okay.
It is, but you.
I will
Okay.
look it up. I will look at a map
Lowell,
now.
that's
I
what it
will.
is.
All right, Sandra,
Sandra, I'm sorry you didn't get any time today.
Oh, no,
I'll
excuse
talk-
me,
we-
you're
we've been
burning the
discussing
time for
important things.
Sandra.
We've been discussing
Sandra,
important things
you
here.
get 30 seconds.
Lovely.
So what do you want me to talk about? Oh, so I can talk about, so basically I do a lot of estate planning, and I guess just the importance of people to make sure that they have things organized for their loved ones for when they go, and that way they keep them out of court and out of conflict. And if you have any questions in regards to estate planning, feel free to give me a call or to visit my website.
So, I heard someone say, if you don't write a will's been written for you, and you're stuck with it.
Yes, that's in intestate law. So the intestate law will go into play if you don't write a will. And that's the state's law of how things get divided.
So, Belinda, time for your elevator speech.
Sure, thank you.
Great show today. Thanks to Belinda for coming in. Hope you come back.
Thank you. So thanks, everybody. I am Belinda Juran. I'm a Lovellian, somebody who loves Lowell and chooses to live here. I think my background and skills, education, and experience as a engineer, a lawyer, and a leader will be valuable on the Lowell City Council. When I commit, I show up and I do the work. So I have been involved in nonprofit boards in Lowell. I write a twice monthly newsletter of activities and events because people like to complain about Lowell, but we have so many amazing things here. And I think that I should say, and I listen and I learn. And it's been so amazing to talk to my neighbors in Belvedere as I door knock and to listen to them and learn from them what they care about the city, many of the topics that we've talked about today. I love Lowell. I am a Lovellian, and frankly, we are all Lovellians. So let's just keep working together to make this city better. And you can find out more about me on my website, which is belinda4belvedere.com. So the number 4, Belinda, Belinda, the number 4, Belvedere, Belvidere.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Sandra.
Yes, thank you for having me.
This is,
There you go.
so, the next time you're coming in, if you're coming in on Monday or Friday, send me a note and tell me what you want to talk about.
Okay,
And I'll send you a note back about the other things we're going to talk about.
Okay, sounds good.
Mike, thanks.
Yep, thank you. I did look up while we've been talking here. Tampa Bay Rays will be there till at least 2028. They extended their contract because of Milton, and they'll be back in their regular stadium next year in 2026.
Okay.
They're at the Yankees spring training this year for the season. So we will be there at least through the 2028 season.
But not
And,
forever. I think there's a Home Depot where the highlight used to be.
Yeah. And just you're talking at the end about a will and all that. I can't tell you. I know personally different people who passed away and did not have a will, and that was just a mess of everything. And in Florida here, you have to be aware of the probate, so you have to make sure you have everything quite right, because otherwise you're going to be tied up in probate. So it's yeah.
Even with the will, you still have to go through probate. So sometimes it's better off to do a trust and avoid probate.
Yes. That's what Kathy and I are looking into. There's some cost to a trust, and sometimes, depending on how your finances are, you don't need a trust because you don't have different things. But my uncle had a trust when he passed away in 2020, and that with his kids as the beneficiaries, and that saved a lot of issues. He lived in Florida in the villages, and everything went smooth because of that. So, yeah. Make sure you have a will and you have power of attorney and all the other stuff. I keep telling my friends that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do it." I said, "Gonna do it and not doing it are two different things. You need to get that."
I know people tend to procrastinate on doing it, but it is important to have in place.
Well, because when they do wills, they think about I'm dying, and they don't want to think about that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody lives forever, so that's the way it is. All right, we'll see you next Monday then, Cliff. Okay?
Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Okay. Bye. Nice meeting both of you.
Me too. Take care, Mike. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
And thank you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yes,
Nice
nice
to meet you as well, Belinda.
So what part of the city do you live in?
I live in Belvedere.
Oh,
I live on O'Hare Way.
Oh, okay.
Which
Cool.
street you live on, Belinda?
Mansard Street.
Mansard Street, okay.
So right, yep,
Yeah.
that's your off clock.
Yeah, I'm off the
Yeah,
clock, yeah,
yeah,
that's not
cool.
that far. My parents live on Star Ave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that's right.
And I'm a Lowellian, I've been here forever.
Cool.
I grew up on Back Central.
Uh-huh. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else in the world.
I have to.
So,
Oh, let's.
You gonna say goodbye, Cliff?
bye, everyone.